Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the High Elves and the pretty princess with her pretty dragon. Going to be taking on the proud forces of the Empire, so let's get to it. We are fighting under the banner of Nagarath, mostly just because I absolutely love the black and gold color scheme. With the princess leading the way, of course, just the dragon mount, and then only the talisman of Loek in terms of abilities. This is a one-time use, gives herself 26 melee attack and some extra weapon damage. The 26 melee attack in particular, if we're going to be dueling a high-value lord up in the air, it's going to be very useful. To also help with that, we've got, where is she? This gal right here, the Mage of High Magic, of course carrying Apotheosis and Tempest, since Flying Lords are relatively common against the Empire. We've also got a unit of Tuxedo Princes, aka the Dragon Princes of Nagarath here, with their black and gold color scheme. 4 units of Spearmen hidden here in the woods. We've also got the Fireborn, of course. And then I believe 1 more unit of Dragon Princes hidden somewhere in the woods there, and then 3 units of Reaver Archers, one of which is the Heralds of the Wind, the Regiment of Renown. Then for my opponent, he's got Boris Todbringer up in the air, a Grey Wizard here with Enfeebling Foe, Melkos, and Penumbral Pendulum. 2 units of Demigryph Knights with Halberds. 2 Hellblaster volley guns, so my opponent, true hero of the people, going to be taking a couple of Hellblaster volley guns, which is potentially pretty risky. 1 Spearman in the back, some handgunners up front, and some swordsmen as well. So without further ado, let's get the battle rolling. And obviously, because my opponent has this very intense kind of artillery helms deep here, not necessarily just going to want to charge straight in. So you can see my Reavers kind of maneuvering up and around through the woods here. The Demigryph Knights are going to be pulling away here. Honestly, the Reaver Bowfire won't do a whole lot, especially in these dense Naggarond woods. These giant freaking redwood trees that are really hard to cast in. But anyway, we're going to be just generally trying to maneuver up and around here. And yeah, I do stray a little bit too close with the princess, unfortunately, which is going to earn me a few volleys from the volley guns. Thankfully, they didn't do too much damage there. But yeah, we're able to bait out a few shots. And the Illyrian Reavers still just pushing up and around the bottom of the hill here, obviously, since the cannons can't shoot down this ridiculous slope or through these ridiculous woods. Going to be advantageous. Meanwhile, the rest of my force is starting to emerge from the woods here, and man, let's just take a minute to marvel at how amazing these Dragon Princes look in this color scheme. Absolutely beautiful stuff. And yeah, just kind of some maneuvering here, positioning, continuously repositioning is what I was trying to say. Just looking for weaknesses and holes, potentially, you know, just kind of feeling out my opponent, checking his reaction times and everything, how he's maneuvering his units, kind of formulating a bit of a plan here, presenting my front line more or less so that my opponent can see me, and since we are in range, of course, I'm going to go ahead and pull back just slightly. This is going to leave just the high mage there, but honestly, the Hellblaster volley gun won't be super accurate at shooting at a single model like that, so it's alright. Meanwhile, the Reavers have almost finished their journey up and around. Going to bait out these Demigryph Knights one more time here. We're going to just pull back, try and pull them out of position here. And then, unfortunately, I'm not quite in range. I probably should have been moving up previous to now, but we are going to start to move these guys up in just a moment here. Once that melee engagement gets underway, should be nice and quick and decisive, as long as we can not get the Dragon Princes shot up too much by the Hellblaster volley guns. So that's my main concern here, is that the Dragon Princes are the majority of my army value, so I need to not get them shot up by the Hellblasters here. This is also a bit of a tip for those of you who are facing these kind of heavy artillery builds. Try and advance in such a way that you present as many targets as possible at once. Also, if you have some skirmish cav that can maneuver up and around, get into a position to do something like this, where they're actually firing at the Hellblaster volley gun crew themselves. Because the Demigryph Knights are a little bit out of position here, we're able to get close enough to actually unleash a few volleys there. The handgunners are also going to come position on top of this crest here and begin to return fire, which that will do some pretty devastating damage. But the Demigryph Knights had pulled back, and again, because they're so far out of position, this other one's way out of position down here on the bottom of the hill, we're just going to go ahead and charge. You know, we'll just go ahead and shut these guys down. You can see the Hellblaster volley guns are still firing, taking out mostly spearmen at this point, which is great because they're not hitting the Fireborn. Maybe a couple of overshots might hit the Fireborn there, but yeah, Demigryph Knights still haven't reacted here, so we're able to more or less shut down a unit of handgunners and one of these Hellblaster volley guns, and then the main engagement here. Boris gets hit by an Overcast Tempest, and then the Talisman of Loic gets popped on the Princess. She's going to come over here and just give Boris the business. So yeah, Boris is in rough shape, and with him going down, the Empire forces are going to wander out here. You can see the Demigryph Knights finally responding to the Reaver Archers here, Spearmen just pushing forward. And yeah, over here, Demigryph Knights with Halberds are pretty good alone. I typically like to support them with Warrior Priests, but with the Spearman support here from the High Elves, the Demigryph Knights are going to get dragged down here, unfortunately. So pretty rough stuff. You can see the Hellblaster volley gun is still shooting in, though, doing some really nice damage to those Dragon Princes. A nice Penumbral Pendulum coming down from my opponent, trying to claw his way back into this game here, but unfortunately his range units are just not performing, and we're able to catch these Demigryph Knights on the back hoof with the Fireborn and a unit of Tuxedo Princes. Enfeebling Foe going down on the Fireborn, very nicely done there, but a little bit too late to save these Demigryph Knights, unfortunately, and with them going, we're going to have free reign to get in the back line, another Overcast Tempest, and the Princess is going to eat Boris for lunch here. So all around rough stuff for the Empire, and yeah, bye-bye Boris. And remember that going with a Flying Lord against the High Elves is incredibly risky because of this particular instance here. Illyrian Reavers charging into the handgunners here, shutting them down, and with all of the ranged units for the Empire just bogged down, they're getting shut down by Knights, Reavers, and more. Frontline engagement's not going terribly for the Swordsmen, but just the overall battlefield picture means that army losses are going to kick in very, very shortly for the Empire. So, yeah, risky stuff, bringing Boris up in the air there. Typically, I will take my Lord on the ground pretty much always, regardless of who I'm playing when I'm facing the High Elves for this specific reason. So, well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. In terms of the post breakdown there, yeah, one of the unit of Dragon Princes got torn up by the Hellblaster volley gun and the Demigryph Knights there, but the other two units, the Fireborn and the other Tuxedo Princes, just collapsing that flank super hard. Illyrian Reavers did a great job just running around, being annoying, and then finding the opening when there was one there. Spearmen, you know, they did their thing, and the Princess, of course, the sole kill of the day for her was indeed Boris Todbringer himself, so that's pretty solid. High Mage, not too bad with the Tempest. Didn't really get involved in combat too much, but in general, the lore of High Magic, super useful. A lot of really good spells there. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. For my opponent, he invested way too heavily in the ranged units. I mean, 4 units of handgunners and 3 Hellblaster volley guns is a significant portion of your army that you're going to be banking on protecting with the same, or actually less, melee units, like, because there's what, 6 total ranged units and 5 total melee units. So you know, even if the High Elves tend to bring, or rather if they would have brought, if I would have brought here a very heavy ranged force, you're still going to be hard pressed to protect that many ranged units with that few of melee units. So just my opponent's army balance wasn't quite where it needed to be. I mean, Boris obviously is not a terrible pick with the Lore of Shadows, certainly very competitive in certain matchups. Hellblaster volley guns, though, while they certainly are a fun pick, I would definitely not recommend bringing 2. They're not the most competitive artillery pieces due to their limited range. So, whoops, that's not where I meant to go here. Let's go to custom battles. So, just in terms of fine-tuning the army composition there, Boris, I mean, obviously, if you want self-healing, you got that. I would put forth that I think if you're going to want a self-healing Ground Lord, Volkmar the Grimm's probably going to give you better value than Boris. You can get the Banishment. If you're facing a lot of Sisters of Avalorn, this Grand Soulfire can protect. Grand Shield of Faith and Grand Hammer of Sigmar are always useful as well. These other two, if you want to bring them, you can. I tend to cut them just for the extra cost because Volkmar is very expensive. Jade Griffin will give him that self-healing, so he's also on the Chariot, which again gives him base magic and missile resistance. So just in general, he's resistant to the Sister of Avalorn fire, a little bit goonable by something like a dragon, but you can certainly have units on the ground to protect him, like some Demigryph Knights with halberds. Royal Orthogryphites, for example, are a great pick. We'll go ahead and grab the Grey Wizard just because I'm a fan of that pick. Definitely very competitive. And then we're going to want one more Warrior Priest here to just be solely dedicated to buffing up the Royal Orthogryphites there. And then one Hellblaster can be pretty good, especially on a nice open map like that. The other artillery piece I would highly recommend is the Hammer of Witches. The Great Cannon has much longer range than the Hellblaster volley gun. It's more of an anti-large type artillery, very good for taking out cavalry, dragons, that sort of thing. So the pairing the two of them together, I find, gives you some pretty good flexibility. You have the anti-infantry, you have the anti-large type. Both can be pressed into the opposite service somewhat well, although it's not necessarily ideal, but you also have the longer range of the Hammer of Witches to help kind of pressure your opponent from a greater distance. And then in terms of the rest of the army there, we're not going to invest quite so heavily in ranged. Instead, we're going to go with a little bit more of a melee focus. 3 swordsmen, pretty decent for holding off high elf spearmen. We're also going to grab some spearmen with shields here to support our own cav. We'll go ahead and grab one more Demigryph Knight just to try and make this kind of as close to my opponent's build as possible. So that's kind of how I would go and fine-tune things based on what my opponent had here. You can notice I don't have any handgunners here. We're going to be relying much more heavily on the Demigryph Knights to get some work done, but we've got more support for them as well. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, though. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.